Hey guys, what's up? So, here I am. It's 2016, and I figured why not kick this year off with a bit of a doozy. This is a film that I keep hearing about. I've been hearing about it for years, ever since I got into the disturbing movie kind of business, I guess you could call it. Kind of gotten into controversial and extreme cinema. It's a German film that I often hear people call more disturbing than a Serbian film. But considering I put a Serbian film on at the number 5 spot in my top 10 most disturbing movies list, I don't think this one is. I honestly highly doubt that this film will, uh, you know, beat it or at least get past it on that list. It's a German horror film that is directed by the guy that made the film Cannibal, that absolutely horrific art film about Armin Malus, the German guy who met another man on the internet and then killed that man and ate him. That he made the film based on that, and that film was very, very boring and slow, and it was like, if there was one film that I could say is what you think of when you think of an art film, it's definitely that one. Now this is a 2.5 hour long epic from this director, a director that after seeing only one movie, I honestly don't think anything he could make anything even remotely good, but whatever. Um, the movie I'm talking about is Melancholie der Engel. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. I don't speak German, but it is pronounced when it's translated to English, it is the Angel's Melancholy. So I'll be referring to it as the Angel's Melancholy, except for in the title of this video, where I will call it by its original title because that's how most people fucking know it. Needless to say, I know nothing about this movie. I know it has to do with some people going up to like a mansion in the woods or something, and then people start getting killed. And it's 2.5 hours long, and it's apparently not just like got some violence. It's also got sex and piss and shit and all kinds of weird, fucked up shit. Um, I honestly don't know what to say other than God help me, or well, I mean, I'm an atheist, so but that doesn't really matter. Somebody help me, please, because this is going to be a horrible experience, and I already fucking know it. But let's hope for a genuine surprise here. Now, let's just sit back and watch the Angel's Melancholy. Oh. So I suppose you want to know what I thought. This is easily one of the worst films I've ever seen in my entire life. Keep in mind, this is coming from the guy who said that the movie The Worm Eaters, which I'm pretty sure holds a lower average rating on IMDb, is a better film. This is coming from the guy who says that Herb Robin's The Worm Eaters, the movie about people eating worms and turning into worm people, is an underrated classic and is a better film than Angel's Melancholy. Let that sink in for how fucking horrific this movie is. And to all the, I know nobody ever said this to me directly, but to all the people out there who have ever said that that Angel's Melancholy is far more disturbing than a Serbian film, you must be fucking high. You probably have to be to watch this movie. Because this movie made less sense than The Holy Mountain. I mean, this is nowhere near the level of disturbing filmness that a Serbian film sits at, or that even The Life and Death of a Porno Gang sits at. And remember, I said the life and death of a porno gang was a far more disturbing film than a Serbian film, and this is nowhere near that. So, yeah, the movie basically opens up with a pregnant woman getting the shit beaten out of her while she's tied up in a barn, and then it just ends and it's never referred to again. Then some people, oh god, it's beginning. And then some people run over an animal with their car, and some stuff happens involving like fast food and technology and witches and shit about storybooks and carnival rides, and I don't even know. At this point, I was 2.5 minutes into the movie, and I was already confused and bored. And I'm gonna go ahead and say this: if they were to cut all the needless bullshit out of this movie, it would probably be an hour and a half long. Because the first 10 minutes of the movie really don't need to be there. Because they don't provide context for anything. I'll give the film this. It has a kind of nice, washed over, kind of faded color visual style. And that's really all I can say. That's really all I had to say based on the first about 10-20 minutes of this movie. I guess I can get on to some of the positives about this movie. The acting is okay. The writing is kind of okay. It's certainly not good. The characters are really non-fucking existent. They aren't really well written at all. They aren't interesting. And I've always said that, a film doesn't have to have good characters to be good. But when it's a film that's trying to be, serious and trying to make you care about what happens to these characters, it's has to be a part of the film. And these characters are non-existent. I can't even remember any of their names. The film has a hard time. The film, I would say that the film has a nice, cool, kind of foggy visual style, and it has some good gore effects. And then I guess I can get to the negatives. The film has a hard time, staying focused on really anything. It prefers to, tattle off, walk off from telling the story, and film skulls laying in the grass and people pissing on each other and doing drugs for no real reason at all. By the time I was 20 minutes into this movie, I was already confused as hell, and I honestly thought that if I turned off the subtitles for the film, it really wouldn't make a difference, and the film would probably make a bit more sense, because this movie makes no sense with the subtitles. I'm sure it would be easier to follow if I did not watch it with subtitles. That's a joke, but that's how fucking, bad the dialogue is. It's like it's not like it's badly written, but it's like it's one of those movies that the dialogue doesn't really need to be there. Nor does any of the very long lingering shots, yet it's there. The film has no real story or pacing, or way of pacing itself, honestly. Sometimes that's a kind of a cool, good thing, and that really makes the film, dare I say, would make a movie a bit more disturbing or creepy, especially in combination with a good soundtrack. A good example is the Scottish sci-fi art house horror film Under the Skin from 2014. That film is extremely unsettling and disturbing and very, very interesting, and almost nothing happens in that movie. The screen is black for most of it, and it's more interesting than a film than this pile of fucking garbage. Other than those few positives that I said earlier, the movie is just a very vapid, dull, boring, characterless, undisturbing, moth-eaten film that is trying way too hard to be disturbing and trying way too hard to be a combination of a film by Gaspar Noé and a film by David Lynch. Sadly, it's not as good as either of those, and this is coming from someone who absolutely hates Gaspar Noé's films. At least the two that I've seen from him, they're actually absolute terrible. They're absolutely just some of the worst things I've ever seen. And this is worse than honestly what I thought of Irreversible or not Under the Skin, but Enter the Void. On the gore meter, it's from 1 to 10. 1 being something like Nosferatu, and 10 being something like Brain Dead. The Angel's Melancholy is probably a 3, maybe a 4. Really, not that bad. But then again, I can't really remember anything that happens in the film because it's one of those kinds of movies that after you watch it, you kind of forget what happens in it. And sometimes, and again, this is something that can split people. You know, sometimes that can be a good thing because the film can just be so dazing and so weird and surreal. Like Pink Floyd's The Wall. That is a film that after I watched it the first time, I could barely remember anything from it. But here, it's another case of they couldn't get it right. And I think I now have 100% reason to hate this director because I don't know how many movies he's made, but I'm sure he's made at least more than 3. And I've seen 2 of them, and they were both absolutely fucking terrible. In conclusion, the film tries way too hard to be disturbing in a kind of surreal sense. Other than that, and other than like some of the surreal scenes, and there's like 1 or 2 scenes of violence and people pissing on each other and explicit sex, and I'm not saying I'm offended or disturbed by explicit sex in movies, but that's one of the things it tries to disturb you with, as well as a couple scenes of actual animal cruelty. This film has nothing going on that is even slightly considered disturbing. Honestly, I've seen more disturbing children's films, and the children's film I'm actually referring to is the surrealist adaptation of Alice in Wonderland from 1988. I can't pronounce the director's name, but it's a film from the Czech Republic, and it's a surrealist adaptation of Alice in Wonderland, and it is far more disturbing and unsettling and creepy than this film. All I really have to say is it's like Pink Floyd's The Wall was easier to understand the first time around. The Holy Mountain was easier to understand the first time around. And really, this movie is just a 2.5 hour long fetish porn film with animal cruelty. And that is not a good thing at all. Overall, it's not as terrible as Cannibal. I'd rather rewatch Cannibal than this, mainly because Cannibal was shorter and kind of got to the point a lot quicker. But I'd probably, since I have to give a film a rating, I can't just say 0, because this film actually did try. It has some good camera work and has a good style, visual style, music, but it has nothing else going for it, so I'd have to give it a half of a star out of 5. Basically meaning on IMDb that is a 1 out of 10. This is one of the worst movies I've ever had the displeasure of sitting through, and I will never touch another fucking movie from this director again, because he does not know how to make a surreal film properly, and he doesn't know how to make an interesting horror film properly, or a surreal horror film properly. I mean, there are a lot more surreal films that are considered to be disturbing out there that are far better films. Eraserhead is a great example of one of these kinds of films. But here, no, nothing good. Really nothing fucking good at all. It is not worth watching. Do not go seek out this film. I know this movie, the whole movie is on YouTube for free. That is where I watched it. Do not do that, because it is not worth your time or anybody else's time. I honestly just want to go do something that isn't related to movies for a while, maybe a day or 2. But anyway, guys, that was the requested by probably 5 or 6 people. I mean, I know there are quite a few people who had told me about this movie before and have said I should review it. So yeah, I got this one out of the way finally, and it was not pleasant. Andy Warhol's Empire was more entertaining, and that's an 8-hour long shot of the Empire State Building. Anyway, guys, I'm starting to ramble now, so guys, have a good day, whatever. Peace.